diligence at all.
Okay. Well, I think that covers 8 and 10. So now let's switch over to paragraph 9.
Yeah, I think that's one of the better provisions too. I don't think our contract would be the same without it. So what about the time frames in there?
So I think the time frames are very good. So how the contract works is that you have, as a buyer, after the contract's ratified, you have 10 business days to do any inspections whatsoever that you want. And that's an inspection, examination, test, anything you want to do. Yep. You can bring in termite, heating and air. You can bring in somebody to see the house is haunted. Whatever you want to do, it's up to you.
Cat urine inspection.
Cat urine inspection, if you can find that qualified inspector.
Yep.
You have those inspections, and then you have 3 options. And at the end of the 10 days, you can either buy it, say, I'm excited, I like it the way it is, we're going to buy it. Which incidentally, if you just do nothing, you're saying, I'm just going to buy it.
I'm just going to buy it. Yep.
You also have second option, which is, I'm not going to buy it. You want to terminate.
Right.
And if you terminate, as you know, you can write a letter to the seller saying, under paragraph 9, I'm terminating the contract, and here's a copy of all the inspections.
Yep.
And the reason we required the inspections was, under South Carolina law, you have to update your seller disclosure.
Right.
So we didn't want a situation where people canceled it, didn't tell them why, then the other person looked at it and goes,
same problem,
and nobody told me about it.
Yep.
So that's why you can we have to have the letters. And then the third option is you can ask for repairs.
Right. So take it, leave it, or ask for something.
Right. Take it, leave it, or ask for something.
Yep.
So now if you ask for something, they have 5 business days. The seller, being they, have 5 business days in which to look at your request, to do their own investigation, and determine how much it's going to cost, whether they feel comfortable making those repairs or whatnot, and they have 5 days to respond. So a seller in responding can either say, yes, I'll make the repairs, which means now we move forward, neither party can terminate.
Right.
They can refuse to make any repairs and say, I'm not going to do anything.
Right.
Or thirdly, they can say, I'll make some repairs, but not all of those repairs.
Right.
And so if we get into part 2, which is I won't make repairs or I'll make some repairs, now we are in a 5-day business day period in which the seller and the buyer have the right to negotiate, go back and forth. Now the neat thing is, and this is one of the things that we made absolutely sure of, is that at the end of that period, if the parties cannot come to an agreement, the buyer still has the right to say, fine, I'll still buy the house.
Right.
And the reason we did that is we did not want a buyer to feel like they couldn't ask for any repairs because the seller had another offer on the table and knew they would say no and then sell it to somebody else. So it still gives the buyer the right to say, okay, even though you won't make the repairs, I'm still going to buy it.
Yep.
So,
one of the things about that time frame issue too that we see is that 5 days per the contract, that 5 days actually starts at the end of the due diligence. It doesn't start when you've received an addendum or when you've received a request or anything. It's the full 10 days happen, then you've got that 5 days.
And that's a good point, because what we see a lot is, I think there's some agents believe that once you get that repair addendum request from the buyer, that it just ends the 10 days and now you reply.
Right.
No, what happens is the buyer has 10 days to ask for repairs.
Right.
And so they can ask for HVAC on day 1, they can then turn around on day 4 and ask for termite, and then ask on day 10 for inspection repairs going from a certified inspector.
So you could actually make multiple repair requests instead of just one addendum.
So what do you do when that happens to you? Because I know you handle it the right way.
So we handle it, if we get an inspection request, when we reply back, we always say this terminates the due diligence period, negotiating period starts now, or something along those lines.
Right.
Just to say that, and sometimes we do that, but sometimes it depends on which side we're on. For buyers that you want to do it one way, or for sellers you want to do it the other way. But for sometimes the sellers want it to happen quick because they don't think it's going to work out. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the sellers want to have a little bit of time to get estimates and stuff like that. So they might say, hey, they sent us the addendum on the 5th day, but we know it's going to take us a week or so to get estimates on this stuff. So let's just not end the due diligence here. Let's wait these 5 days and get our 5 days of negotiating to try to figure out where we want to come back to them with. So it just depends on what side you're on.
So the key is, if you're the seller, is to really communicate with your agent and determine, do I want to end the negotiations now, make sure that's confirmed in writing with the other side, and then go ahead and reply, or whether I want to wait till the end of the 10 days.
End the 10 days now, yep.
Yeah. Right. So what issues do you see, if any, other than what we've already covered for paragraph 9?
So I see people asking for, or if you need an extension of that time, if it's, hey, somebody asks us to have a structural engineer out there, a structural company, or have this looked at by a plumber, or
if your inspector comes out and says, I can't make a determination, the structural engineer should look at it.
Right, or hey, that roof is questionable, there's a loss of granules or whatever. Have a roof inspector or have a roof company look at it. Well, roofing companies right now are booked like crazy.
Yeah,
so
good luck getting somebody.
what happens if you can't get them out there in the 10 days?
So how do you handle that under the contract?
So it defines in the contract that you have an extension. So in our office you can handle it by just asking for an extension of the entire due diligence period. So hey, we need 5 more business days. We define that as 5 more business days starting on this day. Define it as much as you can. Or that's of the entire due diligence period. Or if you want to just extend it, if the whichever side is not willing to extend on the whole due diligence, you can just ask for a specified item. So we're going to extend just on this item. We're going to agree on all this stuff, but this one item we're still in negotiation. We're going to extend the negotiation on this one item for X amount of time, 5 days, 3 days,
so you
whatever.
can do the whole addendum except for the one issue like the roof, and then at the end of that negotiate the roof.
Right. Yeah. We're going to agree that we're going to do all this stuff, but the roof, we need 5 more days because the roofing company can't get out for 3 more days or something like that to give us a number.
That makes sense. Well, you've seen the same kind of issue then with FHA and VA when they come in and ask for additional repairs?
So FHA and VA are totally separate. They're treated outside the due diligence period. So it's it's a clause in the contract that they could come back and say, hey, you need handrails or you need window screens or something like that, and that's handled completely out of the due diligence period. So as agents, we have to make sure we're talking to both clients, with the buyer and the seller, that hey, even though we're agreeing on this addendum right now, the appraisal hasn't even happened yet. So it could be they ask us for some other piddly thing, and it's for our clients, we try to look out for those things. As an experienced agent, you kind of know what appraisers are going to mention, so we try to head that off at the pass if we can. But
so you could have already have agreed on the entire addendum, and then 10 days later the VA inspector comes in and says we need handrails. So now you're having to negotiate that. And if the seller says I'm not going to fix it, then what happens?
Yeah, that's a loan condition. So the seller says he's not going to fix it. The buyer doesn't have to proceed because he can't get his loan without.
So the buyer can either say I'll fix it myself, or can simply say I'm out.
Right, and that's he gets out on the financing contingency at that point because the due diligence contingency is already gone.
Cool. Well, I think that covers us for 8, 9, and 10. But I know there's one thing I really wanted to talk about.
A couch with slow down right now. That's
really
awesome.
Cool. I'm not sure that was okay. There was one other thing I know we wanted to cover, and that was the work that the contract committee is doing right now on the release.
Right. Well, so one of the things that the release is actually already out now. That was our last year. The last year document we put out. I don't think has gotten widespread use across our market yet. There's a termination and release. What we were seeing was people were sending out the release of contract. We used to have it all in one document. It was a release of earnest money, release of contract, release of everything all at the same time. And in reality, the contract says that it's a unilateral notification. So really, whichever side is going to terminate the contract just has to tell the other side they're terminating.
Right.
And then whatever happens after that is up for negotiation. But if one party is terminating, they're terminating.
Right.
There's not, the other party can't say no, you're not, because it's terminating. So we realized that the document that was being used was not really adequate to accomplish what we were trying to accomplish. So we came out with a new document that has 3 separate things on it. One is a notice of termination, which is, terminates the contract. So if you're in due diligence or want to get out because of due diligence, you just say, hey, we're terminating the contract. Because like you were saying earlier, what had typically happened was you'd just be an email that went to somebody. Say, hey, we're terminating the contract, we're out, and nothing else was defined. So this provided an avenue for agents to actually have a signed document saying, hey, we're terminating the contract. The second thing on that is it's a release of contract. So both sides are releasing each other or not releasing each other from their obligations under the contract. So we're terminating, and we want to be released from our obligations. And the third thing is release of earnest money. And so we realized that all 3 of those things could be separate. They could be negotiated separately. So, we're going to release you from the contract. We're terminating. We'll release you from the contract, but we're going to go after earnest money.
Right.
Or, hey, we want to keep your earnest money, or we want to go after your earnest money, releasing you from the contract, or we want to go after you by the contract, but we'll let you have your earnest money back. There's all different kinds of ways that could come across. But there's three distinct separate things is what we realized. So that's what we came out with that last form.
Well, the cool thing is after we finish these videos, we're going to do another series called Agents, Beers, and Addendums. So we will sit in a bar and talk about agents, beers, and addendums. So this will be a cool addendum for us to really get into.
Yep.
So Before we finish, there is one song I think we got to talk about, because I like to talk about crappy music at the end of these videos.
Yep.
And I understand you are a huge Billy Ray Cyrus fan.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And of course, Achy Breaky Heart might be probably the worst country song of all time, and I'm a country music fan, and I'm embarrassed by that song when it comes on. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on Achy Breaky Heart as the worst country music song of all time.
Well, see, my dad's roots are in the hills of Kentucky, and so is Billy Ray Cyrus. So I've actually been in the same room as Billy Ray Cyrus, and shot some squirrels with him and stuff. So
you shot squirrels with Billy Ray Cyrus?
Yep. Can't really speak speak badly of that guy.
Yes, he might shoot you next time you're out squirrel hunting, obviously.
Yeah, that was, I don't know, 25 years ago or something.
Yes, that's a great story, though. All right, well, thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And we will...
Thanks for having me in this sweet car.
Yeah, this has been fun.